Well, hello everybody and welcome to this Thursday's MBE Movie News. I am John Christopher Walsh, I'm the host today and I'm here to discuss some movie news. Who would have funked it, man? And as you can tell by the thumbnail and the headline, I'm here to discuss Jim Cameron's latest sort of love child, if you'd like, his latest imaginings. And look, this guy's an absolute genius, as anyone who's tracked his career will attest to. He's done some truly momentous movies like T2, Avatar 1, even though some people kind of like it now, some people kind of hate it now. It's fallen out of pop culture. That's what I'm going to be discussing on the show. And of course Titanic and a whole array of other movies. This guy is stupendous, and when he puts his imagination into things, they tend to be a success, and that's what I'm going to be speaking about. As you can see with that little graphic there, can Avatar 2's water scenes beat the original 3D magic? Can the stunning water setting in this sequel do enough to sort of overwhelm and stir the inner child within enough demographics to earn it the spondulix that the original duly did earn? $2.78 billion at the box office. Best grossing movie of all time for nigh on a decade. But look, man, here's the article. It's coming in from Screen Rant, and they've kind of went into it. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm going to read two specific paragraphs in said article, and then I'm going to look at some images. And there you have it, Kate Winslet looking interesting underwater. She broke the underwater breath holding record. I think Tom Cruise held the record for a long time, and this wasn't out of just sheer competitiveness, and I do presume she has a competitive streak, having been an Oscar winning actor. That surely stirs up the competitiveness within you. But no, this was out of mere necessity, because these actors are being forced to work almost entirely underwater in this movie. And look, I read another article about this, and they went into the whole inner machinations of Aquaman earlier, 2018, late 2018 was it? Pretty sure it was Christmas. And how, of course, that movie was primarily set underwater, but they shut it. James Wan shut actually using underwater sets, just because of the complexity involved. They went for some sort of high velocity framework apparatus, if you like, to simulate the underwater setting, and it kind of paid off. But Jim Cameron, as I says, he doesn't do that. This guy's an innovator. This guy doesn't do half measures, and he is making all of these actors work underwater to really give us this vivid, realistic feel that we are under the water with these Na'vi creatures. But look, man, I've done my little initial spiel on the general gist of the production behind Avatar 2, which is now finished, incidentally. Let's read the article. First paragraph is saying this: Avatar 2's record-breaking underwater sequences, which have played such a big part of the marketing so far, could be the key to rival the original movie's 3D magic, which was, of course, a tour de force. It was a sort of where were you when Kennedy was shot kind of moment in 2009. Everyone seemed to go and watch this movie. 3D was a gimmick up until that point. I'd went to see 3D things with my school when I was a young kid. It was a joke. This guy revolutionised 3D. It became a thing for 2-3 years. Everything was shot in 3D. They were remaking Star Wars movies in 3D. That was the power of Jim Cameron. And look, can it mimic that and perhaps eclipse that magic? Time will tell. Screen Rant certainly have their thoughts in it, and I do as well. But they continue on saying this: that can be James Cameron's secret but well-trusted weapon in making sure that the hotly anticipated sci-fi sequel lives up to the almost impossible levels of hype established by the former highest-grossing movie of all time. And look, I'm just going to do a little brief stop to admire some of the shots that we're seeing behind the scenes, some of the gadgetry that obviously they're swimming around in. Are they zipping around in? This sort of amphibian vehicle looks very, very cool, man. The fact that they are under the water again, it's ridiculous, really. It's crazy. No one else would try this, but James is trying it. He's not trying it, he's done it. The movie's shot. And here again we have just the scale of this movie as well. It was something we spoke about before, some behind the scenes shots. The scale of the sets, it was like a goddamn mini country, man. We've seen the likes of Kevin Smith talking about J.J. Abrams' The Rise of Skywalker, even Rian Johnson with The Last Jedi. The scale of these big blockbuster movies, the productions are like mini cities. They are huge, absolutely gigantic compared to what this man would craft, a Kevin Smith that is. this guy's taking it to another level again. We've got ships that are gigantic within even bigger ships. These are hangars within this main hub ship. And here is an example of it. A guy who's not a stranger to deep sea diving as well. He went down to visit the Titanic set. He went really far down into the water too. I watched some Disney documentary. I think it was originally a Fox thing. And he's created a sort of deep sea diving submarine thing here that's going to go off to Pandora, is it? But I digress. Here is the other article that I'm interested in. It's this one here. Just as, let's find it, he chased technological wonder in Avatar, Cameron is seeking the same magic, but without a 3D gimmick, which the medium unfortunately became with subsequent releases that didn't stick to Cameron's precise shooting conditions. It did become a gimmick. Those advancements genuinely present the possibility that he will be able to achieve something as visually dazzling and as groundbreaking as Avatar, and crucially, if he pulls it off, it will sell by way of word of mouth to huge potential audiences in the same magic trick conceit as Avatar's 3D did. The film worked so well because you couldn't see the rabbit hidden inside the top hat, and Cameron's commitment to following through his decades-long underwater fascination with visual technology to match could well capture that same magic that saw Avatar 2's predecessor become the biggest movie of all time and for a long while. And look, we're getting the intro again. Something I keep doing in every show. But I kind of agree, man. I'm trying to get this goddamn chair centred, but the mirrored camera's killing me. I kind of agree, and I disagree as well. Can this underwater stuff, this sort of innovation streak within James Cameron, be enough to draw people out in their droves to watch this and mimic the success of Avatar? Well, no, it can't. Not on a financial scale, because this movie will never, ever get anywhere near the $2.78 billion that Avatar grossed. It won't even get near what the likes of The Force Awakens grossed, $2.23 billion at the box office. This movie will probably gross in the mid-1 to $1.5 billion range if the market is back to normality, if the pandemic is cleared by next December. I see no reason why it can't make north of $1 billion, but it's not going to mimic or eclipse the original Avatar. Those movies are... I'm about to kind of contradict myself by saying they're once in a generation. This is a kind of once in a generation, really. This Avatar movie, the last one was a previous generation. This second one is for a new generation. But we've already had Endgame, and sadly, we're just not going to get one movie like that again after 2-3 years after Endgame's already eclipsed and took the top spot at the box office. So I don't think it will match up in terms of financial success. Could the innovation in the actual use of the underwater stuff be enough to draw people out though to get to that $1.5 billion mark? Then absolutely it could. He's doing the right thing. He's shirking the 3D gimmick. He's gave up on that because the world has gave up on it, let's be honest. And this could be the key to success, doing something unique. And the guy has got an obsession with water, as they do say. Doing something unique, doing something that feels real and gritty, like we're seeing with the actual actors on the set. It could be that this is the key to success. Another thing that's the key to success though, and this is the first time I've really looked into this movie in great detail, is the actual story concept. I like what he's doing. He's jumping in time in this movie. It's going to focus on the Sam Worthington character, whose name completely eludes me at the moment. I can't remember the character's name. The movie dropped right out of pop culture, really. It was a sort of forgotten child after 2009. It seemed to be in the mainstream for a couple of years, disappeared after that. But it's going to focus on the Sam Worthington character, his relationship and his Sproggets, his family, if you'd like. And I find that very interesting. That's another thing that's definitely get the possibility for success. The fact that he's highlighted the standalone nature of the first movie, the forgetfulness of it, the fact it was a Ferngully remake with big jazzy 3D stuff, and he's now trying to sort that by making all of these sequels about the same family, the same Sam Worthington character's family. It's going to follow them through a journey and try and mimic what George Lucas done with the original Star Wars and the Skywalker saga as a whole. Focus on characters, and if it gets off to a good start in the second one, we actually connect to the characters and we've got that emotional attachment, that could see them through multiple sequels. And it could get the underwater stuff could give them initial success. This family concept and the emotional attachment and just remembering what the hell's going on in the story and not making it instantly forgettable, that could be the key to long-term success. So I don't think it's going to beat the original Avatar's box office. I've spoken about that before, but certainly the underwater concept, the innovative streak within James Cameron, can lead it to success, and the story concept can give it everlasting success, if you like. But look, I'm done speaking about Avatar, man. I'm going to move on to another big name in Hollywood. It's not Jim Cameron, it's David Fincher. He's been calling out modern day Hollywood, and more specifically the seasons that are present within modern day Hollywood. This notion that summer's for spandex wearing superheroes, and winter and December time is for Oscar baiting, more serious drama driven movies. Now he does it better. He actually has a quote here, and he says it much more eloquently than I do. He says this: there's only really 2 seasons for movies. There's spandex summer, love that term because it's true, and there's affliction winter, also love that too, because obviously these Oscar baiting movies tend to follow the afflicted, war dramas, people with issues, depression and stuff like that. Obviously we had the Casey Affleck one, Manchester by the Sea. These are the kind of movies you get in the winter, the Oscar baiting movies. And he's right, you're making your movie for one of 2 seasons, and if you miss, you'll fall into one of those other 2 seasons, which are nominally dumping grounds. Does that make sense? It does make sense, David, and you're absolutely right. And look, I cannot wait to see this movie, man, with Gary Oldman. I think this looks absolutely fantastic. I just love black and white movies, and I'll get into that later because I'm speaking about WandaVision later on, and it's the same. There's something about black and white movies, deliberately making them black and white. It adds old school vibe, nostalgia. We got it with Robert Eggers in the Lighthouse last year, William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Or was it this year? Losing the plot. I think it was last year. It was early this year. And there's something about that aesthetic. I mean, you marry that with a Gary Oldman, and you marry it with the directing brilliance of David Fincher, and he is one of the great modern day directors. I cannot wait to see that movie. But the general concept, and he goes on to say further down, and he's right, he says he does admit to being a jaded F, but he's an informed jaded F because of his years. He's sort of in rich years within the Hollywood business. He knows what's going on behind the scenes. Inside baseball's what they call it over in the States, I do believe. And the man's right. There is only 2 real seasons now. And whilst I say he's right, I'm going to come in with a little side note to that and suggest that perhaps he and other directors do something to adjust this seasonal approach. There is 2 other seasons. He refers to them as dumping grounds. Well, that doesn't have to be the case. We could have directors like him, Nolan, Tarantino, whoever the hell else is out there, Alfonso Cuarón, Guillermo del Toro, people like that. People who tend to be more drawn to independent or standalone movies that are not part of a cinematic universe. Why don't they start releasing their movies in these out of season times of the year when it's not spandex summer or affliction winter? Why don't they start releasing their movies in the Januaries and the sort of barren period between the summer blockbuster movies and the Oscar baiting movies? Guys like Fincher can change Hollywood. Instead of whining about it like an old bitch and going on about how it's 2 seasons, woe betide, what we're going to do about it, well, you can change it. That's what I would add into it. You're correct, Fincher, but you have the power to change it. You have the power to go into these studios and tell them, I want this done, I want that done. And talking about studios, man, he has signed a 4-year exclusivity deal with Netflix, and that is very intriguing indeed, because again, and I'm going to be speaking about Netflix in the next topic as well. The growth of Netflix, man, this studio, this streaming service, it's almost like a studio now, let's be honest. The growth of this streaming service it's incredible, really. I spoke about it time and time again. The last 10 years, this thing has exploded from a home sort of DVD service. You pick your DVD and they post it out to you, to an actual mini studio streaming service that's getting guys like Spielberg, getting ahead of myself. He goes to Apple TV Plus, he hates Netflix. Getting guys like the Coen brothers and Martin Scorsese, David Fincher, Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, people like that. They are bringing people like this in. It's incredible, the journey they've went on. And Fincher signing an exclusivity deal with Netflix for 4 years is just sort of typifying the journey that this streaming service has went on in recent years. And he said this to say, I do believe, yes, I have an exclusivity deal with Netflix for another 4 years. And depending on Mank's reception, I'll either go see them sheepishly and ask them what I can do to redeem myself, or take the attitude of arrogant asshole who require making other films in black and white. No, I am here to deliver them content, whatever it means, likely to bring them spectators in my small sphere of influence. absolute box. Fincher is getting a huge sphere of influence. This guy's a tour de force. People love him. They love his movies. I love his movies. And he's being modest there, and he doesn't have to be modest. He can be an arrogant asshole, and no one will lose respect for him. But he's been on to say this. I think this is Fincher as well. He's perhaps speaking more broadly. He says this: now, I signed this Netflix deal. It's also because I like to work like Picasso painted, to try very different things, to try break the shape or change the operating mode. I like the idea of having a body of work, and yes, I admit that it feels strange after 40 years in this profession to only have 10 films under my belt. Well, 11, but 10 I can say are mine. Yes, objectively, it is a pretty terrifying observation. I think this is something that really does draw filmmakers, actors alike to Netflix. The likes of Kevin Smith goes there, Nick Cage goes there, to really let out his creative, his creative wants, if you'd like. Scratch the urge to do something a bit wacky like a Mandy or something like that. They will allow creative people like a Fincher, like a Cage, like a Kevin Smith to come on board and do what they want, because there's no expectancy from box office sales. There's no expectancy to get eyeballs physically into a theatre to watch it when it isn't a big blockbuster MCU movie, or it isn't a clear Oscar baiting movie with Hollywood's elite in it, like the likes of Tom Hanks and whatnot. It gives them that freedom. They know they're going to get subscribers in anyway. They've got a huge subscription base. They're earning mega bucks. They're bumping the prices up. It allows them to give the freedom to the filmmakers, and it allows these filmmakers to feel like they can be a Picasso and paint things very different, break out of modes and shapes and stuff like that. And it's very, very interesting indeed. I can't wait to see Mank Man. I think it looks fantastic, as I did say. I love Gary Oldman. He's just a great, great actor, and I'm so pleased he won an Oscar a couple of years ago. So yeah, I find this interesting. I agree with him, but he has the power to change it, and perhaps going and signing with Netflix is not sort of activating that power within him to actually go and change the seasonal aspect of movie releases. But look, I'm excited to see what he does with Netflix as well. So, bit of a hypocritical bitch there, and I'm absolutely fine with that. But look guys, I'm going to move on. It's continuing the notion of Netflix and their flexing of their muscles, if you like. Now this isn't obviously a Netflix original concept. This isn't their specifically curated movies that they put on their streaming service. This is another instance of Netflix perhaps shopping around the film festivals, perhaps just shopping around the studios who are looking to maybe discard some movies that are maybe loose baggage, or they don't feel are going to be a huge hit at the cinema, or they just want to get rid of it because it's a clear Oscar bait. And I'm not saying this is an Oscar bait, but it does look pretty good. But Tom Hanks' new Western is set to come to Netflix. And this is again Netflix picking up some interesting movies, man. Of course, there was talk that they were inquiring with MGM about the prospect of bringing in a No Time to Die. They were quoted between $600 to $800 million as a price, a rental fee, because they have to give it back. It's not theirs forever. They walked away, but they've not walked away from this one. And yes, it's the news of the world, and a very intriguing trailer again. It's been directed by Paul Greengrass. He's just a magnificent director too. He directed Captain Phillips with Tom Hanks. Stupendous movie, I thoroughly enjoyed. That allowed that guy to really show what he's got in the tank when it comes to acting ability. This is in the UK, I have to say. I have to add in that little side note, that little extra bit of information. This is coming, it's foregoing a cinematic release and coming straight to Netflix in the United Kingdom. But they say it was previously supposed to come out January 1st, 2021. That was never going to happen with COVID over here, even though the R rate is kind of dropping and it's all a bit of a cluster F, the whole lockdown thing. But it was never going to release. But they still intend to release it over in the US. There's plans to release it on Christmas Day. So I suppose that pleases everyone. Because we had Tom Hanks coming out and saying about... God, what was that movie called? I'm completely blanking on it. Absolutely shocking, man. The World War II boat one. Shit, I'm blanking on it. Doesn't matter. But he was talking about how that he was disappointed that it was coming to Apple TV Plus. He was disappointed it wasn't getting a cinematic release. It wasn't doing the traditional theatrical release sort of thing, and he had to come out and apologise pretty much and rescind his words a day later. He was clearly slapped in the wrist. But it looks as though he's going to get his wish here. It's going to get the best of both worlds. It will get a release in the US market, perhaps opening back up with Biden coming into power and actually being competent and knowing how to deal with a pandemic situation. And then also it gets to come out over Netflix over here. This suits me, man. It does, because this isn't a movie. I can't admit or a lie that I would have wanted to have go to see. I would have wanted to see. There you go. Speak English in the cinemas anyway. So this suits me that it's coming out on Netflix and perhaps the US are getting to see their version of it in the theatres, if you like. So yeah, this is interesting. But again, just connecting it into the Fincher topic, because it just shows the reach and how much influence Netflix have, and these streaming services are beginning to have the ability to flex and pick up movies like this, which never in a million years they would have been able to get 5 years ago. So it shows you the development, the sort of evolution of entertainment, the evolution of cinema in general. This is the way it's going to go after this pandemic. Greyhound was that movie, incidentally, and I don't know why the hell I blanked on it, but again, this happens every show, man. It seems to be when the cameras come on, the lights are on, the sweat is on, and the memory goes. But look, I digress, that doesn't matter. Let's go to the blog rundown section of a show. This is a show, the part of the show, I should say. I'm doing a good impression of Boris Johnson there. Stuttering Stanley. Not that there's anything wrong with having a stutter. I feel for people who do have it. But this is the part of the show anyway, when I break down the previous 3 written movie reviews from our excellent team of writers that I didn't touch upon on a previous show. Throw them a bone if you'd like for their hard work, the fruits of our labour on the website. And as ever, I'd highly urge you, if you're a fan of film and you want to see unadulterated great movie reviews with no ulterior motive, no hidden agenda, then you can pop along there to that link and you will duly have all of your needs served up to you, man. But look, let's get this first one up. It's Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. It's coming in from Stephen Wilkins. It's a 2020 release, by all accounts a animated movie, and pretty decent by all accounts. I've said by all accounts twice in one sentence there. That's never good. Stephen Wilkins get a bit of enjoyment out of it, it has to be said. He says this is a brutally graphic, fun movie delivering pretty much all one would expect from a Mortal Kombat titled endeavour. The story is actually fairly bland and extremely predictable, but the obvious point of this title is to give the viewer some great skull-cracking, limb-snatching action. The artwork is cool, the voice cast is great, and the action is fun. The main gripe is that even though this is called Scorpion's Revenge, his overall presence feels more of an underlying story to what's going on. All in all, an enjoyable flick. Look, I know the first Mortal Kombat movie that came out in the mid-90s was deemed an absolute shitfest. It was terrible. I was a young kid, and I remember being absolutely fascinated by Sub-Zero and characters like that. So I've got a sort of fondness within my heart for Mortal Kombat. And of course there's a Mortal Kombat movie coming out, a remake set to come out next year. I was going to speak about that, but my knowledge of it's not good enough to carry me through, and you do not touch topics you're not knowledgeable about when you're doing lone shows, because you will have a long night. So, but in a sense it's getting delayed. They're not going to, release of any trailers and stuff like that and promotional stuff is going to be delayed until all these cinemas open up in various different markets. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that remake. This is an animated movie, and look, we've seen it when these animated movies are done well. They are really interesting short little bits of escapism, if you like, bits of enjoyable popcorn flicks. Stephen's reviewed umpteen DC animated movies, and by all account, pretty damn decent indeed. But look, let's move on to the middle review of the blog rundown. It is Look Away. It's also coming in from Stephen Wilkins. This is a 2018 release, and this is it's all about a troubled, bullied young woman in high school. She's simply trying to get through life, and she's shamed at home by her father. This is what Steve's had to say about it. Look Away is a simple yet effective revenge tale in the vein of Carrie, much less fire and destruction on prom night. Which is a shame, because that was kind of the best bits of Carrie, wasn't it, really? Supporting roles from Savino and Isaacs are good. Isley plays dual roles accordingly. Look Away has the makings of series potential under the cursed horror genre, should it be taken seriously. Great film, worth a view or two. I've never heard of it. I do like me some interesting horror stories with the sort of bullied, disenfranchised figure that rises up and starts getting revenge. Jason Isaacs is a great actor, man. I've followed that guy for many moons. So that's interesting. It's a great review from Stephen once again. And again, I'd highly urge you to go over and read more of the man's reviews. You will not be disappointed. The final movie review coming in from the blog rundown tonight is Blackwater Abyss. And this one has been directed by DM Dave Anderson. It is a creature horror movie. It's been directed by Andrew Trauke, and it stars no one of any real note that I know of, but that's not to suggest they're not big name actors. It's just that I don't know them. But look, this is what the man's had to say. By all accounts, a sort of lacklustre creature horror movie, not in the vein of A Crawl, Dave says, but not entirely bad either. There's something about these horror movies when they are done right, they're just escapism, blissful escapism, man, and you get a few jokes or two of panic or discomfort. But this is what the man's had to say in summary of this review. He said, anchored by a chuckle-wuffy false ending, Blackwater Abyss is no Jaws, nor is it as much outrageous fun as Crawl. Still, the film is a solid no-frills creature feature, well made, fast-paced and entertaining. That's more than I can say about the most movies featuring raging reptiles. That's a nice analogy, I like that one, Dave. That could be used for other things, a raging reptile. But he's went on to say, then again, I've always had a soft spot for these things, and so have I, Dave. I like good, wacky, over-the-top sort of creature horror movies. I like some Jaws and stuff like that. A big 40-foot shark, it's absolutely destroying ships and things like that. There's something about it. It's just great. When I go to theatres to watch movies, when I watch movies in general, it's just about being whisked away, I should say, to another world, to another universe. I'm blissfully free of all my worries, all the shit going on in real life. It's all about escapism, and that's what these movies do. At the heart, they're not going to be Oscar winning, they're not going to be things that are going to test you cerebrally like a Nolan movie, but they've got their place in the lexicon of movies that are out there, man. But look, that's going to round up the blog rundown section of the show. Again, I urge you to go over there to that link and click on it if you want to read some interesting movie reviews. I am going to move on to the fourth topic on the show tonight, and it's all about Amber Turd, aka Amber Heard, the man-beater, who seems to have got off scot-free from committing domestic abuse against Johnny Depp. Poor old Johnny has been sacked from his job portraying Gellert Grindelwald. They're bringing in Mads Mikkelsen, a move that doesn't really disappoint me, I have to say. I think, as I said last night, Mads is a better director, a better actor than Johnny anyway, and I think he has got the meat and bones of that character to really act out in these remaining 3 movies. So that's something that doesn't really disappoint me, the actual bringing on Mads Mikkelsen. But aside from Johnny Depp, I've spoken about Johnny Depp many times before, and I'll be speaking about him again here because they're intrinsically linked, really. But this is coming in from CBR, and I've had this to say: there's been a petition to remove Amber Heard from Aquaman 2, and it's crossed the 1 million signature mark. Now, this has been doing the rounds for many months, but with the whole civil lawsuit popping up in the UK, Johnny losing it, ultimately losing his role as Grindelwald, it's reignited in the minds of many people the sort of harsh injustice of it, the hypocritical nature of a Warner Brothers, and how this man-beating fool to my left here is getting away with it scot-free. People they're not happy about it, and yeah, they're sort of speaking with their signatures, if you like. Now, I'm under no illusion that this is going to make any difference whatsoever to the situation. I'm under no illusion that this is going to sway or influence Warner Brothers in any way, shape or form. They're not going to listen to this, man. It's only 1 million people. There's probably 100 million people go and watch your movies, perhaps, in a calendar year. 1 million people is a small sliver. It's not going to hurt the bottom line, and they will be firmly of the mindset, just like a Jason Cummings, or Dominic Cummings I should say. Jason Cummings is a shit football player over here. Dominic Cummings, if you commit a wrong or you do something that winds up or rails a certain section of society up, you just continue on as if nothing's happened, and in time you'll hope that it leaves their mind and they forget about it. That's the sort of strategy that a Warner Brothers will take in this situation. They will not listen at all to this, whatever it is, vain attempt to oust Amber Heard out of her job. But I sincerely hope that they do, in complete contradiction to what I've just said. I sincerely hope they are looking at it. They are realising that there's a fire within the fans of lots of Warner Brother properties, the likes of Fantastic Beasts, Justice League, Aquaman, their DC stuff in general, all of their movies. There may be a backlash against Warner Brothers, and I hope they are watching it and they are diligently looking to this American lawsuit, libel suit, and seeing that if she loses, that she gets her arse swiftly booted out too. This is what they should have done. I've spoken about this twice already this week. I'm going to speak about it one more time just to get it out of my system. If it was a fair situation, they would have got rid of Johnny and they would have got rid of Amber Heard, because both of them, even if they've not done any wrong, or if they have done any wrong, it's about the controversy that's stirring up, the issues, the embarrassment it's bringing to the studio and the press junkets. sort of press in general, the journalists, their minds are not on asking them questions about the movie, about the artistic merits of the stories and stuff. It'll be dominated about, did you hit Johnny, did you hit Amber? It brings embarrassment on them. That's why they get rid of Depp. And if it was all fair, they would have booted Heard's arse out of the door as well. And I sincerely hope, as I keep saying, for my interest in the Fantastic Beasts franchise moving forward, that they do get rid of her. Because if they don't, then I'm not going to be watching another movie again. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people like that in the future. But look, man, I was going to speak about another interconnected story regarding Fantastic Beasts. J.K. Rowling, how she was indifferent about it. She didn't really stand up for Depp, but she was quite happy to see him thrown out the door in a sense. And again, I was going to speak about hypocrisy. She's a woman who's been under fire recently on social media for some of her slightly misguided views on trans people and stuff like that. I just can't for the life of me understand why in the 21st century we've still got people stirring up issues about trans and gay people and all of this nonsense. Just let bygones be bygones. Let people live. And when you create a story about diversity and different people who are different in society being championed and brought into a world where they're accepted, you of all people should know better when you're putting out messages like you did on social media. And you of all people should know that when Johnny's down, you don't kick the man, you help him out. But no, she's threw him under the bus and hoped that it's perhaps going to take the heat off of her. And I sincerely hope it doesn't, because she's had some comments to make about Scottish independence in the past, which I'm a firm advocate of. And I don't like that woman anymore, but her books are still good, and the movies in the early 2000s were still pretty damn good too. So I'm a hypocrite, guys, as you've probably established already. But look, let's move on to the penultimate topic on the show tonight. Could be the last, depending on how I feel after it. It's all about WandaVision. Its release date has been announced, and Disney have made a bit of an arse of this. They says that this was going to come out this year. I firmly remember speaking about this with Stephen on another movie news show a couple of months back. They says that WandaVision would come out in 2020, and we were speculating when was it going to be fitted into the calendar, with The Mandalorian being on an episodic run. It starts at the beginning of November. It's going to run through to December easily. I hope I've not got that wrong. There was no room for WandaVision to fit in, and look, I've kind of been vindicated, because it's now coming out in January. It's coming out in January 15th, 2021. This is coming in from Collider. They're saying you're not going to like it. Well, I don't really care, in all honesty. I've stated my opinion on this before. I would rather they delay this TV show to the end of 2021, so that it falls nicely into that period, that vacuous period between Spider-Man 3 and of course Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, with the impacts of this story going to be closely connected to those two aforementioned movies. For me, it feels like they're dropping the ball here. Kevin Feige's dropping the ball, Marvel, Disney are dropping the ball. By not positioning it in between them, you get to see Spider-Man 3, what happens and plays out in that movie, potential multiverses, potentially Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, J.K. Simmons coming in. We know that Jamie Foxx is coming in to play Electro. And then what's going to happen in Multiverse of Madness, perhaps closing up all of the multiverse shenanigans that's transpiring in WandaVision and Spider-Man. I would have rather this get delayed to the end of next year. So it doesn't really bother me. I don't really agree with you, Collider. I'm ambivalent towards it. I neither like it or dislike it. It's coming out January 15th. As a subscriber to Disney Plus, I subscribed on the annual subscription. It's good for me. It's more content for me to watch, I suppose. But I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for the show. It looks visually stunning. As I said before, when I was speaking about David Fincher and Mank and Gary Oldman, and the black and white visuals, the aesthetics, there's something about it that's alluring. It draws you in. When you're not distracted by all these different colours, you're really focusing, in a sense, on the performances of the actors, on the moment. Your eyes are not drawn to superfluous shit going on the screen. And there's a place for that aesthetic, and we certainly got it in The Lighthouse. We were drawn to Pattinson, we were drawn to Defoe, and we're certainly going to get it in Mank. We're going to be drawn to Oldman, and I hope we're going to get it in this as well. We're going to be drawn to Paul Bettany as Vision. We're going to be drawn to Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff, potentially Evan Peters as Quicksilver, her brother from another mother, perhaps from another universe coming in. I'm excited for it. I say that, but we have got colour there, so I've completely contradicted myself. We have got colour there too. But one must hope that we get a sizable proportion of episodes which are shot in black and white. I presume this is going to transpire episodically over many decades. Hopefully the first couple are black and white, then we transition into the 80s and into the 90s and stuff like that. But these are new images. You see the sort of fractious nature of this relationship. They're supposed to be married, but they're in separate beds. Very strange. Perhaps Vision's a snorer. I don't know. And just the strangeness, it's borderline Pleasantville meets some wacky 1950s American TV shows. But man, it's very interesting, let's be honest. If you're a Marvel cinematic fan, you're a complete liar if you say you're not at least intrigued by what the hell this is going to bring. This is perhaps the first TV show in the Marvel side of things, proper TV. I know we had the Netflix stuff with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and the other ones, Defenders, Punisher. I know we had them, but they weren't connected. They weren't having real impacts on the cinematic side of things. This is going to be the first time we're going to see it done correctly, hopefully. It's going to have wide-ranging implications for the movies and for this universe in general. And it's the first time we're going to see big-budget Marvel TV shows hitting Disney Plus, man. We've seen it with The Mandalorian. It's been smooth, the transition. You've got Favreau and Filoni in there, the innovator, and he's sort of heir apparent to Lucas. Visually, story-wise, character-wise, seamless transition from movies to TV. Is it going to be the same with WandaVision? Can't see any reason why not. It's the actors from the movies coming in. It's the same guys in charge. And it'll be the same people in charge of the technological sort of stuff as well. But look, exciting times indeed, man. It's coming out next year. It's 2 months away. Hey-ho, hi-ho, Silver. Let's move on to the next and final topic on the show. This is the living embodiment of a filler topic to see the show out. It's Michael Bay, it's Jake Gyllenhaal. It's an action movie. It's called Ambulance. What more do you want in life, man? What more do you want, indeed? Not only is it Ambulance, not only is it Jake Gyllenhaal, not only is it Michael Bay, but he's getting back to his roots. He's getting back to the 1990s action style movies, and this is what the man's had to say. Look, Gyllenhaal, tremendous as Mysterio. What a guy he is, what an actor he is. I want to see that character coming back. I'm calling it the now. If we don't get him back in Spider-Man 3, I'm going to throw the toys out the pram like a man-child. But look, here's what they've had to say. Now that Michael Bay has said goodbye to the Transformers franchise, and that's a good thing, we really must continue on in the Bumblebee sort of way of doing things. Who was the director of Bumblebee, incidentally? He'd done Kubo and the Two Strings, I'm pretty sure. Tremendous director. He brought real emotiveness and human sort of introspective human stuff to that franchise, and that's what we need moving forward. No more of these big flashy, bombastic, heartless, soulless shit that Bay gave us. I'm going to get into it later, but Bay, he's technically, I think his last movie he made was The Rock, that was half decent, but hey ho, that's perhaps controversial. But this is what he's had to say. He set his sights on other projects where he can unleash maximum Bayhem. He most recently finished Netflix's Six Underground with Ryan Reynolds. It was a soulless movie again, really. Now he has a new project lined up that could harken back to his 90s action movies days, and Jake Gyllenhaal is reportedly eyed for the role. Michael Bay has supposedly been looking over his options before landing on the script titled Ambulance. He reportedly loved it and he made it top priority. According to Deadline, Bay plans to shoot the picture at the beginning of January. Well, there's no distribution deal closed yet. Universal Pictures is finalising the deal to snag the movie. It's going to be written by Chris Ferrick. This is a man who's done a lot of DC stuff. And perhaps it's going to be very similar tonal-wise to the likes of Speed and Bad Boys. 90s cult classics, if you like. This is great news. As I did say, I think his last great movie was The Rock. I thought it was a great movie. Obviously Connery and Ed Harris and Nick Cage at his brilliant sort of psychotic, eccentric best. He has to get back to that. He has to harken back to these days where he was doing these 90s stuff. I want to see this sort of nostalgic renaissance of 90s movies. We got it with the 80s, we've had it with 70s. Now let's give us some 90s nostalgia. Give us some Speeds and sort of Bad Boys remixed with Michael Bay, man, and Jake Gyllenhaal. It's magic. When I think of Gyllenhaal, I think of the likes of Donnie Darko, and that's technically late 80s, early 90s, so it just works, man. It works. He's done a pandemic thriller. I don't give a shit about that. And yeah, hopefully it'll pay off for Bay. Hopefully it'll pay off for Gyllenhaal. This is a man who can pick any movie now, really. He's up there with the likes of the Pattersons and the McAvoys. of his generation. He's a great actor. He doesn't have to pick any old shit. So there must be something in the script for him to be at least intrigued to want to work with Bay. But look, man, that's going to round the show up. I'm done speaking my voice. I've combined the two. I've created a new word. My voice is starting to go, get a little bit hoarse, if you like. My voice is starting to go. I've been speaking too long. But look, man, what is your thoughts on the topics I touched upon on the show tonight? What do you make about Avatar 2? Do you think that Cameron can utilise those underwater scenes to give it a new vibe, a new aesthetic element, if you like, to perhaps push it up to a similar level to Avatar? Do you think it can get anywhere near $2 billion at the box office? Do you think the concept of focusing on the one family throughout all of the sequels will create an emotive connection that will allow these movies to be more memorable and perhaps successful? What is your thoughts on... I'm trying to think some of the topics I've spoke about. David Fincher speaking about Hollywood and calling out the seasonal aspect of the releases, spandex summer and what was it? Something winter. What is your thoughts on him signing a picture deal with Netflix? What do you make about Tom Hanks' Western movie going to Netflix? Do you care about Amber Turd? Do you want to see her getting sacked? Are you happy about this petition? What do you make about WandaVision coming out in 2021 January? And finally, Michael Bay making an action movie based on 90s classics with Jake Gyllenhaal. If you've anything to say about any of the topics I've touched upon on the show tonight, you can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you have enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future, guys. And if you do, that's precisely what you'll get, but not with me being blinded with lights. There's 2 lights on me and it's hard to see. I feel like Dracula. Stephen will be back and we'll have multi-light and camera setups and I'll not be too sort of Dracula-ish. But look, man, until then, that's what you'll get. You'll get more shite like this. Bye bye, guys.